of the mutual benefits that will accrue to each of the parties hereof, as well as to the citizens of the city of LaPorte, Texas. The parties have agreed and do hereby agree as follows. Article 1. In consideration of recipient renovating the existing structure at 100 West Main Street and operating a mixed-use commercial and residential facility at the subject site, parentheses, building herein, close parentheses, which proposal was considered in that certain public hearing authorizing the proposed project for the expenditure of LPDC funds for the promotion or development of new or expanded business enterprises, held before the LPDC on July 27, 2020. LPDC agrees to provide the recipient an incentive package consisting of a cash payment in a total sum not to exceed $85,000 to be distributed in 2 increments of $40,000 and $45,000 each, with each distribution conditioned on the attainment of certain performance thresholds, more specifically outlined as follows. Number 1, a cash incentive payment in an amount equal to $40,000 will be distributed to recipient by LPDC upon A, receipt of LPDC of proof of substantial completion of renovation of the building, and B, proof of minimum capital investment in the amount of $650,000 applied towards renovation of the building and related infrastructure and site work, exclusive of the cost to recipient to purchase the existing real estate tract and vacant building. However, in no case will the $40,000 payment be made by LPDC if documentation substantiating 1, substantial completion of the renovation of the building, and 2, the expenditure of no less than $650,000 applied toward capital improvements to the building is not delivered to and received by LPDC by July 15, 2021. In the case that proof of substantial completion of renovation of the building and minimal capital investment of $650,000 applied toward capital improvements to the building is presented to LPDC on or before said July 15, 2021 deadline, the LPDC shall convene a meeting of the LPDC Board of Directors for a date no later than 45 days after the receipt of proof of substantial completion of the renovation of the building and minimal capital investment of $650,000 by LPDC from recipient. Upon verification of the substantial completion of the building and minimum capital investment of $650,000, as reflected by formal vote of the LPDC Board of Directors, that recipient has satisfied the requirements of this paragraph, LPDC will then remit the $40,000 to recipient within a period not to exceed 30 days. In the case where recipient fails to submit proof of substantial completion of renovation of the building and proof of a minimum capital investment in the amount of $650,000 by the July 15, 2021 deadline, despite being disqualified for the incentive payment, recipient will remain eligible to qualify for receipt of the $45,000 incentive payment under paragraph 2 below, insofar as the conditions preceding for permanent employment of 4 positions is established in such paragraph is met. However, in such case, recipient will be required to submit proof of substantial completion of renovation of the building in order to qualify for the incentive payments outlined in paragraph 2 below. 2, a cash incentive payment in an amount equal to $45,000 will be distributed to recipient by LPDC upon delivery to the LPDC of A, an employment roster evidencing that entities leasing space within the building cumulatively employ a minimum of 4 full-time employees at the building site as of August 31st, 2021. However, in no case will the $45,000 payment be made by LPDC as proof of the employment of a minimum of 4 full-time personnel as of August 31st, 2021 is not delivered to and received by LPDC by October 31st, 2021. Proof of employment for purposes of this agreement may be satisfied by submission to LPDC by the said October 31st, 2021 deadline of A, copies of building site lessee's 941 report to the Internal Revenue Service and C3 report to the Texas Workforce Commission for each employee, open parentheses, but with social security numbers of each employee redacted, close parentheses, and B, a notarized statement executed by building site lessees, affirming that a cumulative 4 full-time employees are employed in positions permanently located at the building site. In the case
Mayor, sorry to interrupt. Are we not reading the amended one? I just realized we read the old date. Of course, they're not going to ask us to go back and start over anything, but the July 15th, what we're amending here is switching out the July 15th and the subpoint 1.
No, what we should be switching out is to July 15th. That becomes the new
May.
Correct.
It's almost
Correct.
June.
Correct.
Okay, I was thinking it was almost July. Sorry.
Correct.
Sorry to interrupt. Just want to make sure we're reading that. I think we're at the second paragraph on 3.
In the case that proof of employment of 4 full-time personnel is presented to LPDC on or before said October 31st, 2021 deadline, the LPDC shall convene a meeting of the LPDC Board of Directors for a date no later than 45 days after receipt of proof of employment by lessees at the building site by recipient. Upon verification of employment as reflected by formal vote of the LPDC Board of Directors, LPDC will then remit $45,000 to recipient within a period not to exceed 30 days. In the event the recipient qualifies for the $45,000 incentive installment based upon proof of employment of 4 full-time positions by lessees located at the building site pursuant to Article 1, Paragraph 2 above, then in such case, recipients shall be required to prove the continuous employment by lessees at the building site of a cumulative minimum of 4 full-time positions for a continuous 5-year period. At the conclusion of each calendar year during such 5-year period, beginning on December 31st, 2021, through and including December 31st, 2025, recipients should be required to submit to the LPDC proof of employment of a minimum of 4 full-time positions at the building site in the manner required under Article 1, Paragraph 2 above. Should recipient fail to provide proof of the employment of 4 full-time employees at the end of the calendar year, then for that year, recipient shall be responsible for remitting to the LPDC the sum of $17,000, representing recapture out of the previously awarded $85,000 incentive paid under this agreement. However, in the instance that the recipient provides proof of employment of a minimum of 4 full-time positions at the end of a calendar year, recipient shall be relieved from the obligation to remit to the LPDC $17,000 recapture for that year. If recipient fails to qualify for the $45,000 incentive installment provided for in Article 1, Paragraph 1, but qualifies for payment of the $45,000 payment under Article 1, Paragraph 2, then in that case, the obligations of recipient to maintain the continuous employment of 4 full-time personnel at the building site shall continue to apply, but in the case of failure to maintain employment of 4 full-time employees at the building site, shall subject recipient to the requirement to remit to the LPDC $9,000 as recapture out of the previously awarded $45,000 incentive paid under this agreement instead of $17,000. Article 2. All funds received as herein provided shall be solely for the purpose of contributing toward recipient's cost in the renovation of the exterior and interior of the building located at 100 West Main Street and for the making of associated site and infrastructure improvements to operate a mixed-use commercial and residential facility. Recipient further acknowledges that the incentive grant provided for herein is tied to a project of the LPDC for the promotion or development of new or expanded business enterprises, as authorized by Texas Local Government Code Chapters 5, Article 3. Disbursement and or retention of the cash incentive identified in Article 1 of this agreement shall be made as follows. A. Disbursement shall be made to recipient subject to the satisfaction of the conditions preceding or conditions subsequent contained within Article 1 of this agreement. B. LPDC's obligation to recipient shall not exceed $85,000, nor shall LPDC be obligated to reimburse recipient for requests delivered to LPDC after the termination of this agreement. Article 4. Recipient understands that the funds paid to recipient by the LPDC are derived from tax revenues collected under Texas Local Government Code 505.252, and that the LPDC has estimated the tax revenues to be collected during the term of this agreement. Recipient further understands, acknowledges, and agrees that if the tax revenue actually collected is less than 90% of the estimated tax values to be collected in any fiscal year during the term of this agreement, LPDC will be under no obligation to provide funding to recipient for any payment or payments during or after the fiscal year for which there is a revenue shortfall. Upon execution of the agreement, funds will be placed in the City of LaPorte designated commitment account for purposes of this agreement. Article 5. In the event of any default by recipient hereunder, including but not limited to use of the funds provided herein for purposes other than those stated in Article 1 of this agreement, LPDC may cease all future payments hereunder and terminate this agreement. In addition, LPDC shall have the right to reclaim and recapture, and recipient shall refund any funds that are not spent in accordance with the terms of this agreement, including 1. LPDC funds spent by recipient in contravention of this agreement, and 2. Any LPDC funds previously paid to recipient but not yet spent on recipient. In each such case, the previously paid cash payment or payments shall be remitted to the LPDC within 60 of receipt. receipt of written demand for same. Any breach of this covenant shall be grounds for immediate termination of the distribution of funds. Article 6. The term of this agreement is for a period beginning on the date of approval by LPDC and ending July 31st, 2026. Article 7. All funds provided by the LPDC pursuant to this agreement may be used only for the purposes authorized by this agreement. Notwithstanding Article 1 above, the city shall be under no obligation to make any fund disbursements if the reports required under this article have not been delivered to the LPDC. Article 8. This agreement does not create any joint venture, partnership, or agency relationship between the LPDC and recipient. Recipient shall have exclusive control of and the exclusive right to control the details of the work to be performed by recipient hereunder, and all personnel performing same, and shall be solely responsible for the acts and omissions of its officers, members, agents, servants, employees, subcontractors, program participants, volunteers, licensees, and invitees. In no event shall any person participating in or performing any of the recipient's duties or responsibilities hereunder be considered an officer, agent, servant, or employee of the LPDC. Article 9. Recipient agrees to assume and does hereby assume all responsibility and liability for damages sustained by persons or property, whether real or asserted, by or from the carrying on of work by recipient or in the performance of services performed and to be performed by recipient hereunder. Recipient covenants and agrees to and does hereby indemnify, defend, and hold harmless LPDC and all their respective officers, agents, and employees from all suits, actions, claims, and expenses of any character, including attorney's fees, brought for or incurred on account of any injuries or damages, whether real or asserted, sustained by any person or property by or in consequence of any intentional or negligent act, omission, or conduct of recipient, its agents, servants, or employees. Article 10. This agreement may be amended by the mutual agreement of the parties hereto in writing to be attached to and incorporated into this agreement. Article 11. Recipient shall adhere to all local, state, and federal laws and regulations that may affect its actions made pursuant to this agreement, and shall maintain in effect during the term of this agreement any and all federal, state, and local licenses and permits which may be required of recipients generally. Article 12. Recipient may not assign this agreement or any of the benefits provided herein, including but not limited to incentive payments identified in Article 1 without the written consent of LPDC. Article 13. The waiver of LPDC of any breach of any term, condition, or covenant herein contained shall not be deemed a waiver of any subsequent breach of the same or any other term, condition, or covenant. Article 14. The obligations of the parties to this agreement are performable in Harris County, Texas, and if legal action is necessary to enforce same, venue shall lie in Harris County, Texas. Article 15. This agreement shall be governed by and construed in accordance with the laws of the state of Texas. Article 16. This agreement may be executed in triplicate, each of which shall be deemed an original and constitute one and the same instrument. Article 17. Neither LPDC nor participant shall be required to perform any term, condition, or covenant in this agreement so long as such performance is delayed or prevented by force majeure, which shall mean acts of God, civil riots, floods, or any other cause not reasonably within the control of LPDC or recipient, except as herein provided, and which by the exercise of due diligence, LPDC or recipient is unable, wholly or in part, to prevent or overcome. Article 18. By submitting this application, the applicant whose signature appears below confirms its intent and commitment to comply in full with section 2264.052 of the Government Code, and certifies that it does not and will not knowingly employ an undocumented worker during any time period associated with the public subsidy for which the application is being submitted. The applicant further certifies its understanding and agreement that if it is convicted of a violation of 8 U.S.C. section 1324A-F, providing for civil and or criminal penalties for engaging in a pattern or practice of knowingly hiring or continuing to employ unauthorized aliens, it shall repay the amount of the public subsidy with interest at the rate and according to the terms of the agreement signed under section 2264.053 of the Government Code, not later than the 120th day after the date the city notifies the business of the violation. Article 19. The agreement embodies the complete agreement of the parties thereto, superseding all oral or written previous and contemporary agreements between the parties which relate to matters in this agreement. Signed and agreed to by LPDC and recipient and effective on the date indicated below. Signed for the LaPorte Development Corporation by Richard Warren, President, and the Secretary of the Corporation, and Marion and Vicki Campisi.
I'd like to propose an amendment to my motion.
I'm sorry.
I'd like to propose an amendment to my motion.
Have you made a motion?
Oh, did I not make a motion?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
I thought I did.
Wrong
Hold
one.
on a second.
Yes, sir.
It's missing a word in Article 5. I guess it's really good that we read this as a group. At the very end, it says, in each case, the previous paid cash payment or payment shall be remitted by the LPDC within 60 of receipt of written demand for same. So I propose that we add the word days after the word 60 there, as currently it has no unit of measurement.
Okay, that's obviously a typo and we can fix that without the amendment.
Oh, we don't, okay. But aren't we voting on what was just read?
I'm sorry?
I thought we were voting on what was just read. I don't know how this works exactly. I thought,
Yes, but we can add the word days after 60 without amending and taking another vote.
as long as the lawyer says it's okay, I'm okay with that.
All right. All right, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item C, authorize the mayor to sign an economic development services agreement with Economic Alliance Houston Port Region for 36-month term beginning July 1, 2021, ending June 30th, 2024, and providing for payment of $20,000 per year.
Move to accept that?
A motion by Mr. Bentley, second by Mr. McCauley to authorize me to sign the Economic Development Services Agreement with Economic Alliance Houston Port Region. Mr. Gardner.
I would like the agreement read.
Here. Mr. Martin.
With due respect to those who presented earlier, I feel that we've seen this presentation. Councilman has had an opportunity to ask the question. I would suggest that we proceed with voting on this issue without having, to read the entire document.
I don't think, point of order.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So 2 points of order. I don't know if I can do that. If I can't, promise Aaron can tell me. So first point of order, once again, I don't think what just happened was interrupting motion. So maybe we're just abandoning all the rules that apply to everyone else, but only adhering to the rules that apply to me. That's what it seems like is happening. We actually are changing the rules so that more rules apply more stringently, but we're just ignoring all the other rules that exist. And then the second point of order, I don't think that this is a votable thing. A councilperson has a right to ask what we're voting on, and part of that is to read what is being voted on. So, so that's what I'm asking. I have a right to understand what we're voting on. You want to talk out loud so the citizens can hear you collude to prevent conversation, debate, things like that?
Hold on one second, Tom.
Just move the microphone a little closer. Everyone will be able to hear.
I'm sorry?
If you just move your microphone a little closer, the citizens will be able to hear.
It's a conversation between the city attorney and the city secretary.
In an attempt to collude to squash
Councilman Martin has done is asked that we suspend the rules, and that we not allow each item be read from start to finish.
On rule suspension happening around here.
We have a, Mr. McCauley, did you second? Okay.
Can we read whatever it was y'all just read in private, so that everyone understands what's in question?
Martin has asked to suspend the rules essentially.
Well, I mean, the actual, whatever's giving us the authority to do this. The thing y'all colluded about, remember? I asked y'all to read it in public and y'all refused, remember, so I'm asking again.
It is typically appropriate for a presiding officer to visit with a parliamentarian, not in any sense to collude or to hide what they're doing, but simply to discuss and be able to preside over the meeting.
Is it typical that the parliamentarian and the city attorney individually on their own try to find a solution to squash debate or anything like that? Or would you call that abnormal?
That would be an allusion to the conversation that we're having. What we're trying to do is to assist the presiding officer in the conduct of the meeting.
Okay, can you read the rule?
So, basically, Councilperson Martin has asked that the readings not be done, and there has been a second to that motion. That would be a motion to suspend the rules, which would require a 2/3 vote. However, additionally, if member has requested that an item that is before the body be read, not simply a document that they find of information or interest, but the item that they're voting on, it can be read if no one objects. If someone does object, a majority vote is required to order that it be read. So at this point, the presiding officer basically has two things to consider.
Can you tell me where that's at and what document?
In Robert's Rules of Order, section 3322, 3321, my apologies.
3321.
Mm-hmm.
Point 21, 33,
I'm sorry, yes,
33.
colon, 33:21.
And this motion is for item C only. So that can be done for all subsequent items as well. Right. Okay. Again, motion by Mr. Martin, second by Mr. McCauley to suspend the rules and that we not have to read the entire agreement. And again, it takes 2/3. All those in favor say aye.
Mayor, I'd like to debate it. You didn't ask for debate.
Yes, Mr. Gardner.
I mean, unless you're skipping that rule too. Do I have your permission to debate it?
Go ahead.
All right, so what we have is yet another example. I've made this point over and over and over to our citizens. Never has it been more profoundly demonstrable than it has been tonight that the council has continuously modified the rules to squash debate, to squash conversation, to squash dissent.
Mr. Garza, after review that, a motion to suspend the rules is not debatable.
Is this a motion to suspend the rules, or is this a motion to not read?
He's made a motion to suspend the rules, basically, to things that we're not gonna read.
I thought the rules said that he didn't have to suspend the rules. It's in the rules that he can make a motion to not read.
Not what I said.
Well, that's not, what you're saying he said isn't what he said. So, what he said is he would like to make a motion that we don't read it. That's in the rules, that's a motion.
And essentially, he is making a motion to suspend the rules by doing that.
then maybe I misunderstood what you said, Lee. 3321 doesn't give councilperson the right to object to a reading?
So, yes, it gives the right for a member to object to the reading. It requires a majority vote for that objection to be overruled. So,
Which is where we're at right
well,
So he
you're
objected.
basically in both places. He has asked that it not be read. The right is for it to be read. So in order, you would have to suspend the rules to remove that right, and that would require a 2/3 vote. Now, you know, you could make a motion that it could be read, and that would require a majority vote to have it read. So basically, if no one objects, if there is an objection, a majority vote is required to order that it be read. His motion is not to have it read, his motion is to skip the reading.
Okay.
And so he's asking that this rule, that the right of reading basically be suspended. That requires a 2/3 vote.
I'm arguing against myself here, but it seems more advantageous. It seems like the rule allows it not to be suspended. The rule already says that his motion would squash the reading. I would have to make a motion to establish the reading again, and then we would have a vote.
We're trying to be as technically correct as possible.
Okay, well, and a motion to change the rules doesn't eliminate. To suspend the
To
rules.
suspend the rules.
Okay.
Okay, again, motion by Mr. Martin, second by Mr. McCauley to suspend the rules and not allow the reading. All in favor?
Can I have a roll call vote?
Yes, sir, you may. Mr. Angleton? Mr. Bentley? Mr. Lunsford? Mr. McCauley? Mr. Garza?
Nay.
Mr. Martin? Mr. McLaren? And I vote aye, which is a 2/3 majority. So we'll go back to the original motion to authorize the mayor to sign an economic development services agreement with the Economic Alliance Houston Port Region for 36-month term beginning July 1, 2021, ending June 30th, 2024, and providing for payment of $20,000 per year. Any questions or comments?
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve.
You already have a motion by Mr. Bentley, second by Mr.
My
McCauley.
bad. Please retract that statement.
Mr. Garza?
All right, so as I was saying, the last item demonstrated the importance of reading prior to voting. Theoretically, 7 council members got up here, prepared to vote on something. The lawyer was prepared for us to vote on something, city secretary was prepared for us to vote on something, city manager, the entire city manager's office, and whomever else, and completely missed